1929, the year everything fell apart. The Great Depression was the worst money disaster in all of human history. But it didn't show up screaming and waving red flags. It snuck up on everyone while stock prices kept climbing higher. Companies kept making money, and people kept partying like nothing could go wrong. People bought everything on borrowed money. Stocks kept going up. Nobody thought it would ever stop. Then, it stopped. Here we are, almost 100 years later, and guess what? The exact same signs are showing up again. So the big question is, are we about to watch the worst economic nightmare in history happen all over again? How it all started. Picture America in 1929, right before everything went boom. Everyone was living way beyond their paychecks. 3 out of every 4 appliances bought on credit. 6 out of every 10 cars also bought with money people didn't actually have yet. The whole country ran on "I'll pay you back later." It was like magic money that never ran out. Big corporations were gambling on everything. The super rich kept getting richer. All the numbers said everything was amazing. But hidden underneath all that success, a massive debt time bomb counting down. Now let's jump to right now, today. The similarities will give you chills. People missing credit card payments are at the highest rate in 12 years, 6.4%. But wait, it gets worse. Rich people, the ones making over $200,000 a year, their missed payment rate has gone up 2 times in just 24 months. Think about what that actually means. This isn't poor families anymore. This is wealthy people, the ones who are supposed to have their money together, the safety net of the whole economy. When the rich people can't pay their bills, you know something's very wrong. Meanwhile, the stock market? Breaking records left and right, exactly like 1929. Everyone's popping champagne. But if you look closer, the foundation is full of giant cracks. We're not learning from history. We're copy and pasting it. But hang on. To really understand why this matters, we need to talk about what actually went down in 1929 and why it destroyed so many lives. The day the music stopped. October 24th, 1929. They called it Black Thursday. The stock market had been climbing like a rocket for years. Then one day, out of nowhere, it just crashed. Total panic. Everyone tried selling at the same time. Problem was, nobody wanted to buy. In less than a week, billions of dollars just evaporated into thin air, gone just like that. And that crash was only the opening act. The next 10 years were pure suffering on a scale America had never experienced. 9,000 banks went under between 1929 and 1933. People who'd saved money their whole lives lost every penny. Back then, there was no protection, no insurance. Your bank dies, your money dies with it. Jobs disappeared. By 1933, 1 out of every 4 Americans couldn't find work. Some cities hit 50% unemployment. Millions lost their jobs, their houses, their dignity, everything. Half the businesses in America shut their doors. Factories went silent. Nobody was building anything anymore. People were literally starving. Lines for free bread wrapped around entire city blocks. Soup kitchens were the only food source for millions. You could see malnourished people everywhere. Then the Dust Bowl hit the Midwest and made everything 10 times worse. Farms turned to dust. Millions of farmers lost everything. Whole families just started wandering, state to state, desperately searching for jobs that weren't there. And America wasn't alone. This spread everywhere. Europe, Latin America, Asia. World trade dropped by 65%. Germany's economy completely imploded, which actually helped start World War II. 10 whole years of this nightmare. It took a world war to finally end it. 13 million people without jobs. The entire economy sliced in half. A whole generation scarred forever. That's the price when a debt bubble pops. Want to know the scary part? The bubble we're creating right now is way bigger. America's spending problem. Here's the foundation of how America makes money. People spending. 70% of the entire economy is just regular folks buying stuff. That's what happens when you stop actually making things and focus on shuffling money around instead. Here's where it gets messy. The amount people owe has jumped 80% since 2003. Want to guess how much their paychecks went up in that same time? Only 20%. So basically, everyone's spending cash they don't have. And it's starting to fall apart. Check out what's happening to the supposedly stable people. It's folks making over $150,000 a year. Their missed payment rate doubled from 2023 to 2025. These are the people with emergency funds and retirement accounts. When they're going under, the whole ship is sinking. Same thing happened right before 1929. Those buy now, pay later apps everyone loves. They're absolutely exploding. In 2019, people spent $24 billion using them. By 2024, over $180 billion. Crazy growth, right? Here's the catch. Almost half the users, 43%, have missed payments in the last year alone. Student loans, don't even get me started. $1.65 trillion total. That's bigger than some entire country's economies. College costs have skyrocketed 1,200% since 1978. Meanwhile, what people actually earn only went up 280% in that time. So we've got a whole generation that's already drowning in debt before their careers even start. Credit cards are a ticking time bomb. People who've maxed out their cards using over 90% of what they're allowed. 32.6% of them are missing payments. That's more than double what it was in 2021, when it was only 15.4%. The number of people just completely giving up on paying. 4.73%. That's already worse than the 4.7% we saw when the 2008 crisis kicked off. Rich versus poor. We're back to 1920s inequality. The richest 1% now controlled 20% of all income in America. The exact same split we had right before 1929 hit. Even Uncle Sam is broke. National debt just passed $38 trillion. Just the interest on that debt costs almost $1 trillion every single year. Your average American family owes more than $70,000. History's not just knocking, it's kicking down the door. Big companies are playing games. Think regular people are in trouble? Big corporations are playing an even more dangerous game. America's 500 biggest companies owe more than $13 trillion combined. 1/3 of that is rated BBB-, which is basically one tiny step above junk status. But get this, instead of building their businesses, they're playing tricks with their stock prices. Since 2020, these companies have been spending over $800 billion every year buying back their own stock. How much are they spending on actually growing? Only $600 billion per year. They care more about making their stock look good than building anything real. Apple by itself dropped over $600 billion on stock buybacks from 2012 to 2024. So what's a stock buyback anyway? It's pretty simple. A company buys its own shares back. Fewer shares exist. Same profit gets split fewer ways. Each share looks more valuable. Stock goes up. CEOs get giant bonuses. It's just accounting magic, not actual growth. Back in the 1920s, this was called stock manipulation, and it was shady. Now we act like it's smart business. Companies today owe 300% of what they should based on their size. In the early 2000s, it was only 150%. Remember how people in 1929 bought $10 of stock with $1 and borrowed the other $9? Guess what? It's happening again. Sure, big banks have more rules since 2008, but shadow banking swooped in to replace them. Private equity, hedge funds, and fintech companies now make over half of all loans in America. These private equity firms control over $13 trillion. And almost nobody's keeping an eye on them. The hype machine. So what's got everyone excited and throwing money around right now? In the 1920s, everyone was obsessed with electricity and automobiles. They thought General Electric was going to rule the world forever. Today, everyone's losing their minds over artificial intelligence. Nvidia's stock shot up 240% just in 2023. That's basically the same crazy growth that General Electric had in the 1920s. But here's the dark side nobody wants to talk about. From 2022 to 2024, tech companies laid off over 500,000 people. They're firing workers left and right, not hiring them. Massive layoffs disguised as being more efficient. Sound familiar? Houses are following the same playbook too. Between 2020 and 2023, home prices jumped over 10% every single year. Prices in Miami exploded 80% in 3 years. Fun fact, Florida had a massive real estate boom in the 1920s too. Spoiler alert, it ended in catastrophe. And everyday investors are going all in, exactly like 1929. Back then, people got stock tips from the newspaper. Now, it's TikTok and YouTube telling them what to buy. 62% of American adults own stocks right now. Want to know what that number was in 1929? Also, 62%. History is not just repeating, it's copying homework. Why today is actually worse. Here's what makes our situation more dangerous than 1929. Government debt. In the 1920s, the government barely owed anything. Today, $38 trillion. That's 120% of everything America produces in an entire year. But wait, it gets worse. 60% of that debt is owned by other countries. State and local governments are drowning too. California, Illinois, New York, these states owe over $4 trillion to retired workers for their pensions. When baby boomers retire, this is going to detonate. The gap between rich areas and poor areas keeps growing. In wealthy parts of California and New York, people mostly owe money on their houses. In the Midwest and South, people owe money just to survive. Credit cards, payday loans, hospital bills. But now even the rich neighborhoods are starting to crack. Here's the biggest difference between now and 1929. The world is connected. In the 1920s, money mostly stayed inside one country. When something broke, it was kind of contained. Now, money flies around the planet in milliseconds. If something goes wrong in New York, London, Tokyo, and Seoul, feel it instantly. The whole world runs on dollars, the global currency everyone uses for everything. America's problem isn't just America's, it's the entire world's problem. Counting the explosives, let's add up everything that's about to blow. The AI hype tech stocks valued way too high based on dreams, not real money coming in. Housing prices so inflated that normal paychecks can't even come close to affording them. Corporate debt, $13 trillion borrowed when interest rates are still high with no escape plan. Personal debt, $70,000 per family. Credit cards maxed to the limit. Loans not getting paid. Government debt, $37 trillion with interest costs hitting $1 trillion per year. Shadow banks, $13 trillion in private equity with basically zero supervision. The Federal Reserve stuck between a rock and a hard place. Fighting inflation while trying to avoid a recession can't win either way. Back in 1929, during those last golden years before the crash, everything looked totally sustainable too. Spoiler, it wasn't. The whole thing was built on quicksand. Right now, we've got explosives planted in every single corner of the economy. They're all lit. They're all burning. When one goes off, it's going to set off all the others like dominoes. Maybe you're thinking, that's America's mess. I'm somewhere else. I'm good. Wrong. The world economy is one big living thing. When part of it dies, the whole thing gets sick. America controls the dollar, and the dollar controls the world. Every trade, every commodity, every international transaction runs on dollars. Financial power welded the whole global economy together. You can't hide from what's coming. Doesn't matter if you're in Tokyo, London, Mumbai, or anywhere else. All the warning signs are flashing. The debt mountains, the wealth gap, the bubbles everywhere, the borrowed money propping everything up or holding a lit match in a hurricane, standing in a room full of dynamite. The real question isn't if this explodes. It's when. And when it finally happens, will we survive it? Or are we about to relive the absolute worst chapter in money history? The storm's coming. Next episode, we're diving into what happens when everything finally detonates and who gets rich when the world falls apart. Hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Every episode of Tiny Treasury helps you spot the warning signs and stay ahead of the chaos. See you in the next one.